When the world burned between 1939 and 1945, history recorded battles, heroes, and the fall of empires. But behind the headlines, inside bunkers, laboratories, and forbidden archives, were secrets so strange they were erased from official records. Decades later, these mysteries still whisper through forgotten corridors of history. This is not just war history. These are the secrets the world was never meant to know. Mystery Chapter 1: The Ahnenerbe, Hitler's occult division, and the hunt for ancient power. In the heart of Nazi Germany, amid the cold precision of military command and industrial warfare, a division existed that didn't belong in any army manual. It wasn't built to make weapons. It was built to search for something far older. This was the Ahnenerbe, a research institute founded under the direct orders of Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS. Its name meant ancestral heritage, and its mission was deceptively academic: to prove that the Aryan race descended from an ancient, advanced civilization, one that once ruled the earth. But hidden behind this ideology was an obsession far darker. The Ahnenerbe's expeditions stretched from the Himalayas to Tibet, from the caves of southern France to the deserts of North Africa, all hunting for ancient relics and lost knowledge. They were convinced that the ruins of prehistory concealed technologies and powers beyond modern science. In 1938, an expedition left Berlin for the Himalayas. Officially, it was to study local cultures. Unofficially, documents later revealed it was a search for the mythical land of Shambhala, believed to hold keys to ancient wisdom, and perhaps, according to Nazi myth, the source of Aryan blood. They carried strange measuring tools, occult texts, and even biological kits to study local skulls, hoping to link modern Germans to the gods of legend. When they returned, Himmler created a secret archive, a vault beneath Wewelsburg Castle, the SS's symbolic headquarters. Inside, researchers cataloged relics, maps, runes, and fragments of what they called the Black Sun teachings. The castle itself was rebuilt as an occult temple, with an eerie sunwheel mosaic beneath its central chamber. But here's where the mystery deepens. When Allied forces stormed Germany in 1945, the Ahnenerbe's records vanished. Over 100,000 documents, artifacts, and research samples disappeared. Entire departments of scientists went missing. In 1947, a declassified U.S. Army report described the recovery of unidentified metallic objects from a tunnel near Wewelsburg. Objects etched with runic patterns that didn't match any known culture. They were immediately sealed and transferred to an American facility. Some historians claim the Ahnenerbe had stumbled upon ancient technologies, and that fragments of this research quietly influenced Operation Paperclip, the post-war U.S. program that absorbed German scientists into American military projects. Others insist the entire operation was pseudoscientific madness. But one unsettling fact remains. Among the few recovered files was a note written in Himmler's hand. It read simply, "The key is not new. It is a return to the origin." No one has ever deciphered what origin he meant. Was it symbolic, or something literal, buried beneath layers of forgotten history? To this day, deep within the archives of Berlin and Washington, the Ahnenerbe remains one of the most classified and least understood Nazi organizations. What began as a pseudo-scientific pursuit became a labyrinth of lost relics, vanished scientists, and whispers of forbidden knowledge, a trail leading back not to the future, but to the ancient past. Mystery Chapter 2: The Missing Amber Room, Hitler's Lost Treasure of Gold and Light. It was once called the Eighth Wonder of the World, a chamber so magnificent that even the palaces of Europe paled beside it. Walls made entirely of amber, gold, and precious gems. A room that glowed like captured sunlight, handcrafted in 1701 for the Prussian king, and later gifted to Russia's Peter the Great. For over 2 centuries, the Amber Room stood inside the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, an unmatched symbol of beauty, diplomacy, and power. But by 1941, when Hitler's armies invaded the Soviet Union, the treasure became something else entirely: a target. The Nazis believed the Amber Room was not just art, but a cultural relic of Germanic origin, taken by Russia centuries before. When the Wehrmacht reached Leningrad, a special art-looting unit called the Kunstschutz was dispatched with one order: recover the Amber Room and bring it home to the Reich. By the time Soviet curators tried to dismantle it for evacuation, the brittle amber panels shattered in their hands. Within 36 hours, the Nazis had stripped the chamber bare, packing over 2.5 tons of amber and gold into crates labeled furniture. Those crates were shipped to Königsberg Castle, a stronghold on the Baltic Sea. There, under Nazi guard, the Amber Room was reassembled, shimmering once more beneath candlelight, in defiance of war. And then, it vanished. When Allied bombers hit Königsberg in 1944, the castle was reduced to ruins. But survivors later testified that, before the bombing, trucks left the castle at night, heading toward an unknown destination, their cargo sealed and heavily guarded. Some claimed the Amber Room was loaded onto a ship named the Wilhelm Gustloff, which was later torpedoed and sunk in the Baltic Sea, taking thousands of lives, and possibly the treasure with it. Others insist it was hidden in an underground bunker system in the Ore Mountains, part of the secret Ries complex, where the Nazis buried countless stolen artifacts. After the war, Soviet and Allied search teams scoured every lead. By 1959, trace of the room remained. Only fragments. A mosaic, a small piece of amber in private hands, and one of its gilded panels discovered decades later in Germany. But in 1997, something strange happened. A retired German art dealer was found dead under suspicious circumstances. Among his possessions was a map, hand-drawn, showing the layout of Königsberg Castle, and a marking beneath it labeled simply, Raum A. Investigators believe it pointed to a secret chamber beneath the castle ruins, sealed by concrete after the war. To this day, Russian and Polish teams occasionally claim to have found new leads, a radar anomaly here, a forgotten tunnel there. But each discovery ends the same way. Empty walls, no room, no treasure. And yet, whispers persist that the Amber Room wasn't destroyed, but quietly recovered, piece by piece, in the years following the war. Some say it was reassembled in secret, now hidden inside a private European collection, protected by those who profited from the chaos. Others believe it never left Königsberg at all, still buried beneath layers of post-war reconstruction, waiting for someone to open the wrong door. Even today, a replica stands inside the restored Catherine Palace, glittering with new amber, but every piece of it is modern. The real room, the one touched by centuries, stolen by an army and swallowed by history, remains lost. No gold, no map, no confession has ever brought it back. And perhaps that's the strangest truth of all, that one of the world's greatest treasures could simply disappear without a trace and without a witness. Mystery number 3, the ghost convoy of the Arctic, the vanishing fleet of 1942. The year was 1942, and the icy winds of the Arctic Ocean carried more than just cold. They carried secrets. as Nazi Germany tightened its grip on Europe. The Allies launched one of the most dangerous missions of the war: the Arctic convoys, fleets of merchant ships braving the frozen seas to deliver vital supplies to the Soviet Union. But one particular convoy, PQ-17, would become the center of one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries of World War II. At first glance, it was a standard operation: 35 merchant ships, heavily guarded by destroyers and cruisers, carrying tanks, ammunition, and aircraft through the North Atlantic. Yet, beneath the routine, there were whispers among the sailors, rumors that the Germans knew every move before it happened. It felt cursed. Some even claimed that strange signals echoed through the radio, transmissions that didn't belong to either side. Then, on July 4, 1942, a single message changed everything. The British Admiralty, convinced that the dreaded German battleship Tirpitz was en route to attack, ordered the convoy to scatter. Convoy is to disperse. 3 words that sealed their fate. Chaos followed. Without their escorts, the merchant ships became easy prey. Luftwaffe bombers and U-boats descended on them like predators. In just a few days, 24 out of 35 ships were sunk, their wrecks swallowed by the Arctic depths. But when the storm cleared and rescue teams finally reached the area, something didn't add up. Several ships never appeared on radar again. Not sunk, not floating, simply gone. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies. Even modern sonar scans decades later have failed to locate their remains. Among the missing was the River Afton, a freighter carrying classified cargo, crates sealed under orders from the Ministry of Defense. Its true contents remain unknown to this day. Survivors spoke of eerie encounters during their escape. Some claimed to have seen a phantom fleet, ghostly outlines of ships emerging through the mist, sailing silently parallel to them before vanishing into the fog. Others recalled hearing Morse code tapping from nowhere, echoing through their hulls long after the convoy scattered. One radio operator reportedly received a chilling message before his ship went under: "We are not alone out here." When historians later reviewed the Admiralty's decision to scatter PQ-17, the reasoning didn't hold. The Tirpitz never attacked. In fact, it never even left port that day. So why was the order given, and who sent it? Declassified documents from the British National Archives reveal something even stranger. The original message logs were altered. Times didn't match. And in one section, a communication from an unknown station appeared in the records, later redacted. Some intelligence officers suggested that the convoy might have fallen victim to radio deception, a secret German project aimed at mimicking Allied signals. But others believed something more disturbing: that the order didn't come from any known command center at all. In 1997, an expedition team searching for PQ-17's wrecks near Spitsbergen Island reported picking up metallic anomalies on sonar, shapes resembling ship hulls, that vanished when they returned to verify the readings, as if the sea itself refused to give them up. Some divers later described equipment malfunctions, compasses spinning, and a strange electromagnetic hum in the water. To this day, the missing ships of PQ-17 remain unaccounted for. The official record calls it a navigational loss under extreme conditions. But among Arctic fishermen, a different legend survives. On moonless nights, when the mist rolls in and the sea falls silent, they say you can see the ghost convoy, lights faintly glowing under the surface, still sailing, endlessly repeating the doomed journey that history tried to erase. Was it human error, German trickery, or something beyond the war's reach that erased those ships from existence? No one knows. All that remains is a radio log cut off mid-sentence. We can see them now, but they're not ours. Mystery, Germfrey 4. The Lost Gold of Yamashita. The treasure that cursed a generation. When the final days of World War II approached, Japan's empire was collapsing, its fleets shattered, its armies retreating. But in the chaos of defeat, whispers began to spread among Allied intelligence circles. Rumors of a vast hidden fortune looted from across Asia and buried deep in the mountains of the Philippines. They called it Yamashita's gold, named after General Tomoyuki Yamashita, the Tiger of Malaya. And to this day, no one truly knows if it was ever found, or if it still waits, buried beneath earth that refuses to give it up. As Japan conquered territory after territory across Southeast Asia, from Malaya to Burma, from Singapore to Indonesia, its forces plundered unimaginable wealth. Gold bars, diamonds, priceless artifacts, ancient Buddha statues, and royal treasures, all seized and shipped to Japan to fund the war. But when the Pacific began turning against them in 1944, the Japanese faced an impossible question. How do you move an empire's stolen wealth when Allied bombers rule the skies? That's when the Golden Lily Project began, a covert operation personally overseen, some say, by members of the Japanese royal family. Their solution was both brilliant and sinister. Hide the treasure where no one could ever reach it. And the chosen ground was the Philippines. Dozens of underground tunnels, catacombs, and natural caverns were carved into the mountains. Engineers built intricate traps, pressure mines, collapsing tunnels, and even hidden chambers sealed with concrete and dynamite. Witnesses later claimed that local laborers and prisoners of war were forced to build these vaults and buried alive once the work was done. By early 1945, the treasure was reportedly split into 175 sites scattered across the archipelago. But the plan unraveled fast. As U.S. forces closed in, Yamashita surrendered, tried and executed for war crimes, taking the treasure's true location to his grave. Decades later, in 1946, a Filipino locksmith named Rogelio Roxas claimed to have found one of those vaults. He discovered a chamber lined with gold bars, and at its center, a life-sized solid gold Buddha, its head removable, inside more jewels. But Roxas's story would become darker than the tunnels he explored. Shortly after his discovery, he was arrested, beaten, and the treasure was seized by men he claimed were connected to then-President Ferdinand Marcos. Roxas later filed a lawsuit in Hawaii, and the court actually recognized his claim, confirming that such a discovery had existed. Yet the gold was never recovered. Marcos's family denied everything, and the vault's entrance mysteriously collapsed in an explosion months later. Still, the trail didn't end there. Japanese veterans, CIA operatives, even treasure hunters in the 1980s all claimed fragments of truth, partial maps, encoded diaries, confessions. One U.S. intelligence report, declassified years later, stated plainly, large caches of gold were discovered by Allied forces in the Philippines post-war. Exact amounts undisclosed for national security reasons. Today, satellite scans and ground-penetrating radar still reveal unnatural voids beneath the Luzon Mountains. But every expedition that's tried to unearth them has ended in failure. Landslides, sudden deaths, or disappearing investors. Locals say the treasure is cursed, guarded by the restless spirits of those buried alive to keep it secret. Fishermen near the mountains speak of flickering lights underground, glowing like molten gold. So, what really became of Yamashita's gold? Was it a myth, a desperate legend born from wartime chaos? Or did the treasure fund post-war power structures and secret networks that still shape the modern world? One thing's certain, the Philippines' mountains remain silent, and beneath their stillness, something sleeps, untouched for 80 years, shimmering in the dark, waiting for the world to remember what it tried to bury. Mystery 5. The Antarctic Fortress. Hitler's final escape, or a frozen myth? In the closing months of World War II, as Berlin burned and the Reich collapsed, one rumor began to circulate, whispered among intelligence officers, pilots, and sailors. It claimed that the Nazis had not simply surrendered, they had relocated to the ends of the earth, specifically to Antarctica. For decades, historians dismissed it as fantasy, but buried inside government archives and naval logs are fragments of evidence that refuse to disappear. Strange expeditions, missing submarines, and classified missions that suggest someone, or something, was indeed down there. The story begins in 1938, when Germany launched a secret expedition to Antarctica aboard the ship Schwabenland. Officially, it was a scientific mission. Unofficially, according to declassified Allied intelligence, it was a territorial claim, mapping an area the Nazis called Neuschwabenland. The expedition dropped aluminum flags marked with swastikas, photographed mountain ranges, and discovered massive ice-free valleys, heated by geothermal vents, large enough to hide entire facilities. When the war ended, several Nazi U-boats, U-530 and U-977 among them, vanished, only to reappear months later in Argentina, long after the war's official end. Their captains claimed they had been on extended patrol, but when interrogated by Allied officers, their logs had missing pages. No one could explain where they had gone in the frozen months between May and July of 1945. Then came the strangest event of all, Operation High Jump in 1946-47. Led by Admiral Richard E. Byrd, it was the largest Antarctic expedition ever assembled. 4,700 men, 13 ships, 33 aircraft. Officially a research mission, but the sheer scale suggested otherwise. Byrd's fleet left in December and abruptly returned in February, 6 months early. Something had gone wrong. Byrd never spoke publicly in detail, but Chilean newspapers quoted him saying, "The greatest danger we face comes from flying objects that can move from pole to pole at incredible speeds." That single line ignited one of the longest-running mysteries in post-war history. What exactly did they encounter beneath the Antarctic ice? Years later, leaked Soviet intelligence suggested that Allied forces engaged unidentified craft during the mission, objects that rose vertically from beneath the ice and disabled aircraft with blinding light. Most of those reports were dismissed, but the fact remains. Byrd's official logs for several days of the mission remain classified, even today. Declassified British and Argentine naval records also mention unusual atmospheric phenomena in the region during the late 1940s, glowing lights moving beneath the ice shelf and sonar readings of structures hundreds of meters below. Some researchers believe the Nazis had established a base deep within the ice, using geothermal heat to power underground bunkers, a last redoubt to continue their research in secrecy. Others argue it's a Cold War myth, a convenient cover for experimental Allied weapons testing. But the coincidences pile up. In 1958, the U.S. launched Operation Deep Freeze, re-establishing a military presence at the South Pole, and in the same year, the Antarctic Treaty was signed. banning all military activity and restricting access to large portions of the continent. A global agreement to leave Antarctica untouched. Why? Even modern satellite imagery reveals blackout zones, regions blurred or censored, often near Queen Maud Land, the exact area once claimed by Nazi Germany. Scientists explain it as sensor interference. Skeptics call it a cover-up. So what lies buried beneath Antarctica's endless ice? A secret Nazi base? A forgotten bunker filled with stolen technology? Or something far older? An ancient power the Nazis were searching for all along. Whatever the truth, the last radio transmission from U-530 remains hauntingly simple. Mission complete, heading south for the fatherland forever. And in the frozen silence of the Antarctic night, that transmission still echoes, a relic of a war that never truly ended, just moved underground. Mystery Doctor 6. The disappearing train of Hungary. The lost gold of the Third Reich. It was one of the last desperate acts of a dying empire. A train so heavily laden with gold, jewels, and stolen art that it glimmered like a moving fortress. In the spring of 1945, as Soviet forces swept toward Central Europe, the Nazis tried to erase the evidence of their plunder. From deep within Hungary's forests, they prepared their final escape. Secret convoy carrying billions in treasure that would vanish without a trace. They called it the Hungarian Gold Train, a steel serpent of 46 cars, each packed with valuables stolen from Jewish families during the Holocaust. Inside were gold bars, rare paintings, Persian carpets, silverware, and even wedding rings, all stripped from victims who never returned. The train's manifest listed more than $200 million worth of cargo, by today's standards, over $3 billion. But it wasn't just treasure. Rumor had it that hidden among the boxes were classified documents, evidence of secret transactions between Nazi officials and Western financiers. Papers that could destroy reputations if they ever surfaced. The plan was simple. Flee west before the Soviets arrived. Under orders from SS officer Arpad Toldi, the train departed from Budapest on March 30th, 1945, disguised as a Red Cross transport. Its destination, the Austrian Alps, where Nazi high command hoped to regroup and negotiate a surrender on their own terms. For weeks, it crept through bombed rail lines and ruined villages, changing routes under the cover of night. Witnesses later recalled seeing soldiers throwing bodies from the cars, looters or anyone who had seen too much. By mid-April, the train reached Werfen, Austria, near the foot of the mountains. And then, it simply disappeared. When U.S. forces later entered the region, they found the rail yard empty. No train, no cargo, no survivors. But villagers nearby told a different story. They spoke of gunfire echoing through the night and of trucks loaded with crates rumbling toward the mountains under armed guard. A few even swore they saw American soldiers among the convoy. When Allied investigators arrived, the local SS commander was dead, an apparent suicide, and his logbook missing. Only one page remained, the final entry written in hurried ink. They are coming for it. We buried what we could. For decades, rumors persisted that U.S. officers seized the treasure and quietly distributed parts of it among themselves or powerful post-war allies. Indeed, in 1999, declassified U.S. documents confirmed that some of the train's valuables were indeed taken by American forces, many sold or lost in bureaucratic confusion. But even those records admitted that most of the gold, over 2/3 of it, was never found. So where did it go? Treasure hunters in the 1970s began combing the Salzkammergut Mountains, guided by witness accounts and recovered Nazi maps. In one case, divers exploring the nearby Toplitzy Lake found crates of counterfeit British pounds, remnants of Operation Bernhard, a Nazi scheme to crash the British economy. That discovery added weight to the theory that the gold train's cargo had also been hidden underwater. Then, in 2015, Polish explorers using ground-penetrating radar detected a long metallic object buried under a hillside near Walbersich, the supposed ghost train. Media exploded with claims that the legendary Nazi treasure train had finally been found. Excavations began, but when they dug to the indicated depth, nothing. Not a single bolt, wheel, or coin. The readings had vanished, as if whatever was down there had moved, or never wanted to be found. To this day, the story of the Hungarian gold train remains one of World War II's most enduring enigmas. Billions in gold and art vanished. Officials died with their secrets. And every few years, whispers rise again, of faint metallic echoes picked up by miners, of strange air pockets detected in the mountain scans. Maybe it's still out there, resting beneath layers of rock and history. Or maybe it was never lost at all, only quietly claimed by those powerful enough to make it disappear. Whatever the truth, the train that left Budapest never arrived anywhere, and its ghost still haunts the tracks of a world that pretended to forget. Mystery Surger 7, the Dyatlov Pass of World War II, the vanished patrol in the Ural Mountains, in the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains. Long before the infamous Dyatlov Pass incident of 1959, another lesser-known mystery unfolded, one that would be buried under military silence and wartime secrecy. The year was 1943, and the Soviet Union was in its darkest hour. But somewhere in the icy vastness between Sverdlovsk and the Arctic Circle, an entire military patrol of 32 men vanished without a trace. No gunfire, no survivors, just silence and a trail that ended in snow. At the height of the war, Soviet High Command often used the Ural region for classified weapons testing and radio experiments. The mountains were remote, unforgiving, and perfect for work the public was never meant to see. That winter, a detachment led by Captain Ivan Polyakov was ordered to deliver experimental equipment to a research base known only by its code name, Site 12. Their mission was routine: 3 days through deep snow with sled dogs and supplies. They never returned. When rescue teams were finally sent a month later, what they found was something beyond logic. The camp was intact, supplies untouched, rifles still stacked neatly beside snowshoes, but every tent flap was cut open from the inside. Tracks in the snow showed the soldiers had run barefoot into the night, leaving their gear behind. Some prints circled back, some simply ended mid-slope, as if the men had been lifted away. The bodies, or what remained of them, were found days later. Several were badly burned, despite no signs of fire at the camp. Others showed massive internal injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, but no external wounds. And one man's body was found in a tree, clutching his rifle, eyes frozen open, as though he'd seen something unspeakable. The official report described it as a training accident caused by exposure and panic. But the investigators' own notes told another story. They wrote of radiation traces on the men's clothing, unheard of in a snowfield that far north. They also reported strange metallic debris scattered nearby, half buried in ice, which was swiftly confiscated by military officials. The next day, the case was sealed, permanently classified under wartime secrecy. In 1959, when the Dyatlov Pass tragedy occurred barely 500 kilometers away, local mountaineers whispered that it had all happened before, that the same mountains had already taken a patrol decades earlier. But Soviet authorities denied the connection. To them, the 1943 disappearance did not exist. Years later, declassified KGB archives from the early 1990s revealed a document referring cryptically to the Polyakov incident. One line stood out: "Recovered object has been relocated to Facility 742. Witnesses must be silenced. Official explanation: avalanche." No avalanche had ever been recorded in that part of the Urals. In 2008, a Russian research team retracing the 1943 route reported malfunctions in their equipment. Compasses spinning, batteries draining instantly, and an eerie, low-frequency hum echoing through the mountains at night. Satellite readings of the area revealed a magnetic anomaly, centered precisely on where Polyakov's camp had been. So what did they encounter? Some believe they stumbled upon an early Soviet test of directed energy weapons, accidentally caught in the blast. Others suggest the soldiers discovered something non-human, a craft perhaps, that crashed amid the snow and secrecy of war. Whatever it was, it frightened 32 trained soldiers enough to flee barefoot into sub-zero temperatures, something no soldier would ever do unless the alternative was worse. To this day, Russian military maps mark the area as restricted terrain, its coordinates redacted even in civilian hiking records, and in the nearby villages, locals still speak of lights that move beneath the snow, glowing softly before vanishing into the night. The Dyatlov Pass is infamous, but the vanished patrol of 1943 may be its forgotten origin story. A ghost chapter of World War II that history tried to erase, yet the mountains remember. And sometimes, when the wind howls just right, they say you can still hear the faint echo of soldiers shouting, orders lost to time, in a war that reached beyond the human and into the unknown. Mystery, great. The Bell of the Reich, Nazi Germany's most dangerous secret experiment. When Allied forces stormed through Germany in the spring of 1945, they expected chaos. Desperate soldiers, destroyed cities, and abandoned bunkers. What they didn't expect to find were blueprints for a machine that looked nothing like a weapon of war. A bell-shaped device surrounded by coils and strange inscriptions, rumored to generate massive electromagnetic energy. Its codename, Die Glocke, the bell. Officially, it never existed. Unofficially, it terrified everyone who heard about it. According to surviving SS documents and post-war testimony, Die Glocke was one of the most secret projects of the Ahnenerbe, Hitler's scientific archaeological division. It was developed at a facility deep in the Owl Mountains of Lower Silesia under the code name Der Riese, the Giant. Engineers, physicists, and occult researchers were gathered from across occupied Europe, ordered to create a Wunderwaffe, a wonder weapon that could end the war in a single strike. But this device didn't fire bullets or bombs. It manipulated time and space. The machine stood nearly 4 meters tall, shaped like a bell, with 2 counter-rotating cylinders filled with a violet metallic fluid known only by the code name Zerum 525. When activated, the bell emitted a terrifying hum and a blinding blue light. Plants and animals exposed to it died instantly. Their blood turned into a gelatinous substance. Scientists who worked near it reported disorientation, headaches, and visions they couldn't explain, as if reality itself had started to bend. When the Allies began closing in, the entire facility was ordered destroyed. Project leader SS General Hans Kammler, who also oversaw V-2 rocket production, vanished, along with his records and the Bell itself. No trace of either was ever found. The official post-war line? Kammler committed suicide, but no body was ever recovered. After the war, Polish intelligence officers investigating the Der Riese complex discovered a massive reinforced concrete structure, shaped like a ring of pylons. Unlike anything else from the era, locals called it the Henge. It matched descriptions of the testing site for the Bell perfectly, the place where it was allegedly suspended during experiments. When the Soviets occupied the region, they sealed the area and removed truckloads of material under armed guard. What they took remains unknown. Then came the testimonies. In 1965, a German scientist named Jakob Sporenberg, captured by the Allies and later tried for war crimes, gave a chilling confession. He claimed that 5 of the Bell's scientists were executed after a final test went wrong, a test that caused the machine to disappear for several minutes before reappearing, leaking radiation. When asked what he thought it was, Sporenberg replied, "It was a gate, but not to where we expected." The CIA took notice. Declassified documents from Project Paperclip, the post-war U.S. program to recruit German scientists, show several references to Bell-type experiments and research into anti-gravity propulsion. Some even suggested that the technology could be linked to UFO sightings that began appearing over Europe and the U.S. shortly after the war. Coincidence? Or continuation? Modern researchers who visited the ruins of Der Riese still report strange electromagnetic readings, compasses spinning, batteries dying, even drones malfunctioning near the concrete ring. One team claimed to have picked up a low-frequency hum, identical to descriptions from the 1940s. The sound faded the moment they left the perimeter. Was the Bell a prototype for advanced propulsion, decades ahead of its time? A failed experiment in field manipulation? Or something far more dangerous? A breach of the physical laws themselves? The Soviets built their own secret facility soon after the war, allegedly based on captured German data. And in 1952, American intelligence intercepted a message from East Germany that read simply, "The bell has rung again." No one ever found out what that meant. Whatever Die Glocke truly was, its blueprints vanished along with Kammler, buried somewhere between myth and classified files. Some say it was hidden in South America. Others claim it lies frozen beneath the Antarctic ice, protected by those who finished what Kammler began. And maybe, just maybe, when the world experiments with energy we still don't understand, the bell rings again, echoing across time from a war that refused to end quietly. Mystery number 9, the Amber Room, the lost treasure of the Tsars. They called it the 8th wonder of the world. A chamber built entirely of amber, gold, and mirrors, a masterpiece gifted to Peter the Great by Prussia in 1716. The Amber Room wasn't just decoration, it was legend. A room that shimmered like liquid fire, holding centuries of Russian pride and imperial history. When the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, Hitler ordered his art-looting division, the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, to seize it. Within days, the priceless panels vanished from the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg and reappeared in Königsberg Castle, deep inside Nazi Germany. Then, it was gone. When Allied bombers reduced Königsberg to rubble in 1944, witnesses claimed to have seen trucks, trains, even ships carrying crates marked AR, bound for destinations unknown. Some said they were seen heading toward the Ore Mountains. Others swore the amber room was loaded aboard a ship called the Wilhelm Gustloff, which later sank in the Baltic Sea with over 9,000 souls. The Soviets searched relentlessly. They found ashes, fragments, and whispers, but no room, no panels, no gold, just empty walls where the world's most beautiful secret once glowed. Then, in 1997, German police discovered a single mosaic panel from the amber room, hidden in the possession of a former soldier's son. It was real. The craftsmanship matched perfectly. But where were the rest? Rumors spiraled again. Some said the amber room was buried inside a sealed mine in Poland, protected by booby traps and collapsing tunnels. Others pointed to secret Nazi vaults beneath. Lake Toplitz in Austria, where crates of Reich gold, documents, and art treasures were found after the war. To this day, divers continue to explore the lake, their searchlights cutting through black, freezing waters. The treasure they seek might still be down there, encased in amber, wrapped in time, waiting for a hand brave enough to uncover it. But maybe it was never treasure at all. Some historians suggest the amber room carried encoded secrets, political alliances, hidden communications, disguised as art. If that's true, its disappearance wasn't theft. It was erasure, a deliberate act to wipe out a message that history was never meant to read. Mystery Satjumperten, the Antarctica Enigma, Operation High Jump, and the secret war that never ended. The war was over. The world was rebuilding. But in the frozen South, a new operation began. Operation High Jump. Officially, it was a U.S. Navy mission to train troops in cold weather survival. In reality, it was something else. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, one of America's most respected explorers, led 4,700 men, 13 ships, and aircraft into Antarctica, a force far too large for a training exercise, and they weren't alone. Declassified documents suggest that Allied intelligence had been tracking Nazi activity in Antarctica since the final years of the war. Reports claimed that German submarines had vanished near the South Atlantic, heading for a mysterious base labeled Neuschwabenland. Theories emerged that Nazi scientists carrying advanced technology and secret archives escaped to this hidden stronghold, continuing their work beneath the ice. Operation High Jump's mission lasted only 8 weeks, not the planned 6 months. It ended abruptly. Byrd returned home silent until he gave a cryptic statement to a Chilean newspaper. In case of a new war, the United States would have to defend itself against enemies that can fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. What did he mean? Some claimed he had encountered unidentified flying craft, unlike anything known at the time. Others said it was the result of secret German experiments, aircraft powered by exotic propulsion, decades ahead of its time. Satellite imagery decades later revealed anomalies beneath the Antarctic ice, vast geometric structures, heat signatures, and magnetic distortions. Coincidence? Perhaps. But scientists still can't explain the no-fly zones surrounding certain regions, or why multiple expeditions in the 1950s reported mechanical failures and electrical interference near those same coordinates. And there's another mystery. In 1959, just 13 years after Operation High Jump, the Antarctic Treaty was signed by 12 nations. It forbids any military presence, mining, or exploration beneath the ice, indefinitely. Why protect an empty wasteland? Some believe the answer lies buried under miles of frozen silence, a remnant of the war that never ended. A secret too old, too advanced, or too dangerous for humanity to uncover. Whatever happened in those weeks after the war, Admiral Byrd took to his grave. His final logbook remains classified. But one passage, leaked from his earlier diary, reads, "We entered a world unlike any I had ever seen, where the sky glowed with an inner light and the compass spun endlessly." Was it metaphor, madness, or a warning? Even today, Antarctica remains the only continent humanity cannot freely explore. And that silence, that frozen, guarded silence, might be the loudest secret of them all. From the ashes of a global war rose 1,000 unanswered questions, whispers buried beneath metals, ruins, and silence. Each mystery we uncovered tonight, from the amber room's vanished glow to the frozen secrets beneath Antarctica, carries one undeniable truth. Some things from World War II were never meant to be found. Millions fought for nations. But in the shadows, others fought for knowledge, for power, for relics, for control over the unknown. What began as a battle of armies slowly became a battle of secrets. And decades later, those secrets still breathe. Somewhere in a forgotten bunker, files still marked Geheim, top secret, may hold the real stories behind these enigmas. Maybe they were experiments too advanced for their time. Maybe they were cover-ups that rewrote history. Or maybe they were warnings. Because when you study World War II closely enough, patterns emerge. Patterns that lead backward into ancient civilizations, lost technologies, and symbols far older than the Reich itself. It's as if the war wasn't just about the future, but about rediscovering the past. And perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all, that humanity's most brutal conflict may have been a desperate search for something buried long before we existed. The archives are still sealed. The witnesses are gone. But the clues remain, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to see the connections others ignore. Because history doesn't hide its secrets forever. It only waits for the right moment and the right mind to uncover them.